Hello and welcome to another episode of Psych and Sex Sundays with Dr. Sonya Maya. That is me. I talk all things psychology, relationships, attachment, bedroom. I'm going to start using more, safe words when talking about smegs on here because don't want to upset YouTube daddy. Today I want to talk about the differences of spicy time preferences among varying attachment styles because I've been seeing some very interesting research, and it turns out that depending on your attachment style, you might have different preferences in the bedroom, especially when it comes to reciprocity, or your motives when it comes to the bedroom, and this might be very much something you are unaware of, but self-awareness is a beautiful, beautiful thing, so I want to help everybody achieve more self-awareness. And I do ask that you please hit that like button, it helps me very much, and subscribe to my channel and watch all the way until the end if you don't mind, because it does help my channel. So there are 4 attachment styles here, just like a very small short recap of attachment for you. There's secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. Those with insecure attachments, they may behave in ineffective ways in order to get their needs met, to fill a void, so to speak. And a lot of the time their communication and their styles of communication might be very ineffective and it causes more harm. And I'll get more into this later, but this isn't your fault if you have ineffective communication due to your attachment style. A lot of the time our attachment styles are related to our upbringing, what we witnessed growing up, the type of communication that our parents had. Did they shut down during arguments? Did they open up? Those types of things. A study from 2018 looked into sexual differences in terms of partner orgasm preferences, collected college men, about 262 college men, and 745 women in college. And this is unsurprising, but these studies showed that women had more of a motivation for their partner to have a big O than men, which the big O gap is a problem. Yes, we know this. So I wasn't surprised by that, unfortunately. I thought it was interesting though, because attachment anxiety was associated with a higher interest in the partner big O. Attachment avoidance was associated with a lower interest in partner O. So if you have an anxious or a secure attachment style, then you care more for your partner to have pleasure and your partner to have an O, versus if you are an avoidant individual or someone who has disorganized attachment, and more on that very soon. So first I'm going to talk about secure attachment style in the bedroom. Typically, securely attached individuals, they enjoy intimacy in the form of touch. Typically, they like striving for that in long-term relationships. They have fewer doubts about where they stand in a relationship, less likely to struggle with self-esteem or use sex in a lot of ways to increase self-esteem. Like that's not typically prevalent among those who are securely attached. They're not filling any void. Typically their goal for a relationship is to build a foundation on trust, mutual understanding, respect, warmth, love, all those beautiful things. And those who have a secure attachment style are more likely to have a healthy, fulfilling sex life, which shouldn't be surprising based on what I just said. They typically feel good about themselves and they feel motivated for communication. So what does my partner like? What does my partner not like? I want to make sure we're on the same page. Just so you know, even if you're securely attached, that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It still takes work to have a healthy sex life, which is why I dedicate so much of my time and effort into teaching people how to do that as a therapist that specializes in sexual issues, that is. And we need more of them, by the way. Research shows that those who are securely attached, they are more likely to feel satisfied about their sex. Like I already said, they're more comfortable experimenting, so they might be comfortable with spicing things up in a different way in the bedroom. Of course, there's still going to be issues that come up from time to time. There's no relationships out there that don't have conflict or don't have triggers, like, oh, that thing that you said, I didn't like that. Like that happens in secure attachment all the time, but they're more likely to communicate about it effectively. And one of the hallmarks of secure attachment is like when you are in conflict, you typically trust the other person enough to get through it. Like you'll have more hope that it's going to be okay. And you're more likely to communicate effectively, and you trust that the other person, that they love you. You're not thinking like, oh my God, this person doesn't love me. You're not having this black and white thinking. You're able to understand like, yes, there's going to be another side of this. We're going to get through this. Especially if you feel secure in the attachment and the person that you're dating isn't avoidant or anxious. Of course, you could be securely attached and dating an avoidant person, and I'll talk about this more later, but you might actually start experiencing anxious attachment style like feelings and thoughts if you are dating an avoidant person, even if you have a secure attachment, because attachment is on a spectrum and it's constantly changing, but more on that later. But they have good enough experience, and securely attached individuals know that once the conflict is over, that they will get through it, and I am still lovable, and people are mostly good in the world. Whereas people who are anxiously attached might not feel that most people are good, for good reason. But let's get into anxious attachment. So anxious attachment is also referred to as preoccupied attachment. Individuals with anxious attachment are more likely to participate in sex to feel approved, validated, wanted, reassured. They have sex in order to feel accepted. Research shows that those who have an anxious attachment style, as an adolescent, they're more likely to participate in sexual activities that is not really for their own needs, but to feel accepted because of that fear of abandonment. And they feel like if I get close to somebody physically, I'm less likely to be abandoned. I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that doesn't happen. There is this fear of rejection, like I said. There might be some expressions of jealousy or insecurity. This might look like clinginess. They often feel misunderstood, and they want to make sure that the person wants them. I want to make sure that I'm desired. A great example of what this looks like is Chelsea and Jimmy from Love is Blind season 6, which is currently finished. I don't want to spoil anything too much for anybody if you're, still watching it, but Chelsea and Jimmy, they get into a lot of fights in this season of Love is Blind.
You were the only person who wasn't coming up to me being lovey, and why couldn't we do that like everyone else was?
I kissed you more than anybody kissed their woman tonight.
I don't know what Chelsea's attachment style is, but if I had to guess, it's most likely anxious, because there were a lot of examples of her asking for reassurance and feeling like, you don't love me, this type of thing. She was having a lot of black and white thinking associated with that, unable to differentiate. And she was also, there was a scene where they were fighting and she was like, and I had sex with you. And then Jimmy said something like, actually, I wanted a bit of a break from that. So that made me think, when the cameras aren't there, it's possible that Chelsea is initiating sex more often in order to feel wanted and loved. And that was kind of mean for him to say that, but he ends up calling her clingy later, like needy. So when I was watching that, I was like, ooh, okay, this kind of looks like a good example of anxious attachment. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it seems like. So it's possible that Chelsea had some type of anxious attachment dynamic modeled to her growing up, potentially. This is how she wants to get her needs met. So yeah, that definitely popped to my mind. Their dynamic definitely looked like anxious and avoidant. And it's kind of cool to see that on TV because, I'll see it in my therapy room with couples, but it's not very common that you'll be able to see it so raw like that. So I thought that was very good television. I love me some Love is Blind, oh my goodness. Research shows that individuals who are anxiously attached are less likely to be able to remain friends with an ex after they break up. There might be a more prevalence of body image issues. It'd be a huge arousal killer. It's really hard to be in the moment when you're really worried about your body, and a lot of us have that to some extent, but if you're anxiously attached, that may be a lot more prevalent. And a lot of anxiously attached individuals are likely to describe their sexual experiences as negative. On a small positive note, research shows that people who are anxiously attached are more likely to use condoms during sex, so they're more careful. But there's other research that shows that individuals who are anxiously attached are more likely to participate in sexual activities that they don't actually enjoy in order for reassurance. So that could go both ways. There could be more of a risk that's being taken, or maybe they're being more anxious and they're like, oh, I need to make sure to use protection. They're actually more likely to fake it as well. And then they might even get more anxious about their own experience. Like, do I actually like this, or am I just doing this for validation? So that makes it even worse. And if you are participating in sex to feel accepted and you're not using protection, that's going to put you at more of a risk because of the oxytocin release when you're having sex. It provides somewhat of a false sense of security when you feel like you can trust somebody even though you don't know them that well, which is a lot worse when you don't use protection. So if you're anxiously attached, definitely work on stating boundaries and taking things slow so that you're not getting that false sense of security, falling in love with the D, falling for somebody that doesn't meet your standards in other ways when you're thinking about it logically and not in emotion mind. In terms of avoidant attachment style, also referred to as dismissive, if you're avoidant, then you're less likely to be interested in the type of sex that's like, look into my eyes and tell me you love me type of sex. You're more likely to want casual sex. You're less likely to catch feelings because feelings are vulnerability. We don't like vulnerability. Fear of intimacy, they might feel distant, especially during an argument, they might shut down. And that's because being intimate is threatening. That's what it seems like for them. So they want more emotion-free sex. They might not be so into the passionate stuff. They might not be into foreplay, which sucks because foreplay is amazing, as I always talk about. Something that happens pretty often is someone who has an avoidant attachment style, they might show a lot of reciprocity in the beginning when it's so new, like in the honeymoon phase. And then when things start getting more serious or there's more talks of commitment, they might actually be less reciprocal because they have this fear of closeness. I can't rely on anybody but myself. It's a protective factor, kind of like with anxious attachment style. It's a protective factor. Like, I need you, come here, come here. With avoidant, it's like, no, go away, because I can't trust anybody but myself. So a lot more one-sided, at least after a while, and they do it to protect themselves. Avoidant individuals are more likely to use sex to reduce stress. So casual sex might be more convenient for them in this respect. It might feel like they're using your body to masturbate, which sounds really gross to say, but that is possibly how it feels because it's so one-sided. It's like you might as well just pleasure yourself, like, am I even here? That kind of thing. And of course, not everybody who is avoidant is going to have these factors, but these are the common factors. Lastly, we have disorganized attachment. You get a little bit of the best of both worlds, which I'm being sarcastic here, but there is high anxiety and high avoidance. You get a little bit of both, right? Individuals who have disorganized attachment when they're kids, this can be really confusing because let's say there's a child that was abused by their parent, which is supposed to be the person that protects them. So they want to, like, you know, when they're feeling scared, like, I need to run away from that person because they're abusing me. But then they're like, wait, but like, who do I run to? Like, who can I go to actually make me feel safe again? And then they're like, ooh, maybe I should run towards my parent to make me feel safe. Oh no, but they also hurt me. So it's this very disorganized and confusing dynamic, which does translate into adulthood. And they feel unworthy of love, and they often might actually pursue casual sex, but don't get too close. Low self-esteem. So a lot of the traits already mentioned, but kind of like a scramble of both of those. So they might express passion and love for someone, but then when things get really serious, they don't want that physical intimacy as much. It could look like a lot of things, but a lot of the time it does look like they want casual sex that is emotion-free. So as I mentioned all of these things, I think it's just important to keep in mind, you know, attachment style plays into so many areas of your life. And it's really important to note, and I've said this many times in different videos, attachment can change over time. So you need to notice it, identify it, increase that self-awareness. You can be anxiously attached and become securely attached over time, especially if you're with somebody who's compatible. If you are with somebody who's avoidant, it's going to be harder, but you can still work on that together. A lot of people who are anxiously attached do end up with avoidant people, and I see it happen all the time, and it's interesting because it's definitely not a good combination, but it happens a lot. Typically, an anxious person will want that acceptance from an avoidant person who pushes them away, which makes the anxious person want that even more, that reassurance. So I think that's part of it, but there's so much more to that. And like I said, it's like a spectrum. So you can be anxiously attached and definitely not have all the characteristics that I mentioned. And it's all subconscious. People aren't doing this on purpose. They're not jeopardizing their relationships or getting into ineffective conflict on purpose. Therapy can be very healing. It can be a safe space to notice those dynamics and break those patterns. And like I've said before, you're most likely repeating or modeling behavior that you observed growing up, most of the time. So it's not your fault. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. A lot of things in life, not your fault, but yes, it's your responsibility to do better and to break the cycle. Now I'm thinking about Love is Blind again. Clay's mother, so Clay and AD were a couple in Love is Blind, and his mother was talking about that, and there's this really great scene. Clay's mother is talking to the father, like, you found me, but you didn't treat me right. We need to break the cycle. We need to show Clay that he can be in a long-term relationship without hurting someone like you hurt me. It was like such good TV. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. But yeah, break the cycle. Just because your parents had ineffective cycles and ineffective communication and dynamics doesn't mean you have to, you know? But therapy really helps, like I keep saying. If you know that you're avoidant because you've been doing the work and you took an attachment quiz or whatever the case may be, and you're dating somebody who, like, let's say they express something that's somewhat anxious, like they make an absolute statement, which we shouldn't be speaking in absolutes unless we want to keep fighting ineffectively. But let's say they say, you're always on your phone, you never give me attention, those types of things, always and never. Instead of defending yourself, being like, I'm not always on my phone, say something like, oh, like I'm noticing that you're upset by this. What can I do to make you feel better? I'm so glad that you brought that up to me. And even though I feel like I'm not always on my phone, like I do understand that there's something that is bothering you, like you're feeling disconnected. So let's talk about it. Because a lot of people might just shut down or fight back, which just ends up in this cycle that is very destructive. So this is something you work on. You can work on it within your dynamic. And it does take time, but I believe in you. If you like this video about attachment styles and spicy time, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe, turn on the bell notifications as well. And I will see you next week for another video. And everyone, please remember to make good decisions because we all deserve pleasure. See you next time.